Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hey, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I wanted to just take a minute to talk about a phrase, something that just kind of like irks me a little bit when I hear it, just because I guess I disagree with it strongly. Who here has heard the phrase of calling something a guilty pleasure? And I feel like that's such a loaded phrase because I don't believe we need to feel guilty about the things that make us happy. Why should we be ashamed? Why are those things that we call guilty pleasures when they can just be flat out pleasures? Because a lot of those times, those are the things that make me smile and that I look back on with happy memories. I remember watching, this was granted back, I think in the 90s, my girlfriends and I would get together every Tuesday night to watch Melrose Place, but that was one of those shows you didn't necessarily admit to watching, even though we loved it and had a great time. Air Pop popcorn with sriracha honey butter is one of my favorite things. And just even a leisurely walk without having to rush home and have a ton of things in my list and that kind of a thing, being able to enjoy moments. Dark chocolate, enough said. But, why do we need to feel guilty? Where does that guilt come from? And so I want to break down a little bit about not only where that guilt comes from, but also where we can begin to how to let that guilt goes so we can actually enjoy things that make us happy without feeling like we need to hide them, explain them, over-validate why they're okay to do, and just enjoy them and celebrate them and do them because they make us happy. No guilt at all. So when people talk about these activities that they label as guilty pleasures, I think a lot of times the fact that the activity is solely for pleasure, for happiness, and doesn't necessarily produce anything productive, that we see it as a luxury rather than a necessity, which is, I think, part of what happens with self-care in general, why it gets such a bad rap, because you can't necessarily quantify it in an outside way, whether it's dollars earned or something you produce other than happiness. And so we judge that activity as shameful or something to feel bad about or something we need to explain. And there's a lot of baggage that we need to break down when it comes to guilt because it's a learned behavior. And so we really need to be able to unlearn that mindset, unlearn those thoughts, and being able to see those things that make us happy from a different perspective other than that of guilt. So many times when I'm talking to other women, we feel like we're being selfish if we're doing something good for ourselves. And me, I say self-care is not selfish. Taking care of ourselves is not selfish. It is so impactful for everybody else around us that we need to shout that from the rooftops. And I'm not sure where we learn that from. Sometimes, to take your own life and look back a little bit and see where that came from can help us undo that mindset that we have. Personally, I've done a lot of work in really being able to examine where that came from. And I think in my home, sitting leisurely without getting something done, even if there were other things to get done, wasn't always valued. And so, being able to break that down, learn to sit and relax and not feel the anxiousness of, but I should be doing something else, and letting go of that guilt and not transferring that to my kids. Because I definitely saw when they were younger, I might have started to get into those patterns, and still until I started kind of investing in myself and undoing these things is where, we really can then break that generational pattern that we start to see. They say ultimately guilt comes from a value or rule that was ingrained in us. And now we feel like we're breaking it and should feel bad about it. And so letting go of terms of like lazy is a big part of that too. And letting go of that judgment around what is healthy, not just from, a monetary standpoint, a physical standpoint, what you can see, but emotionally, mentally, finding value in the things that are healthy for us in that way as well. And so, like I said, that first step in breaking this down is going to be changing your mindset. Taking those things that we might right now label as a guilty pleasure and reframe our perspective to one that is less judgmental and rigid and more open to being just something we enjoy, something fun, something for pleasure, because unfortunately our own inner voice can be very powerful and say a lot of really like ingrained thoughts that we know might be harsh, that we would never say to our friends or anybody else around us who shared what they were doing. And we need to learn to unthink those things when it comes to ourselves. One way you can start to do that is to write those thoughts down or say them out loud. When we're using a different part of our brain, so when we write them down, when we're saying them out loud, we can hear them and reflect on them in a different way. And it gives us that power then to not only reflect on them differently, but then change them. Once we hear how they sound as if we were saying them to somebody else, you can remind yourself that it's not hurting anybody else. It doesn't come from a place of malicious intent, and that you can list all the positive benefits, all the things you're going to gain to help you start rethinking those actions. The next part is to own it. Own that activity. We define ourselves by what we like, how we dress, how we take care of ourselves. And when we take parts of ourselves that we enjoy, that we like, and either feel bad about them or try and hide them when we feel guilty and wrong, it's not in line then with how we've defined ourselves, and it can then increase that guilt and kind of give it more power. And you start to question if even doing it's okay. So by really owning it, celebrating the things you enjoy doing without the fear of you or anybody else for that matter judging you, so that you can be aligned in a way that you feel like you're not showing different sides of ourselves, and setting a boundary from that outside judgment if you know there's people or situations that aren't going to be as maybe supportive as you need them to be. And by kind of putting it out there and letting the world know you're taking a moment, you're taking care of yourself first. And as you know, I see self-care as part of a routine that you implement throughout your day, every day. Everyone will not only see the benefits, but you're starting to reframe the conversation, reteach the people around you how to then have that aligned and same mindset with you. And the last part of that guilt can come, unfortunately, from our happiness. So many times, some of us find it hard to be open with our happiness, to celebrate our wins, because we maybe have heard the phrase, oh, must be nice, or don't want to seem like we're bragging. And it's not to pretend that things are perfect all the time, or that bad things aren't happening in our lives or in our world, but we shouldn't have to also then hide, the positive things that are going on. I can remember as a kid sometimes not wanting to say how well I did on a test in class because maybe other people around me could see that as bragging or showing off. I think unfortunately sometimes there's a social connection that comes from commiserating those shared negative experiences, and absolutely we should kind of share those so that we can not feel so isolated and alone and make ourselves stronger. But I also think that celebrating a mindset of success and happiness has also become a little bit of the outcast. And I think we need to be able to support each other in the positive things we're doing for ourselves. If somebody is taking some time to do something good for them, help them not feel guilty. Help them celebrate that moment. And happiness can look different for so many people. And I think, that's a whole different episode to talk about happiness not coming necessarily from external things, but coming from that internal contentment and acceptance and joy in different moments. And like I said, that would be a different episode to get into, but being able to share that happiness in a way that we don't feel so exposed and vulnerable, and just being able to sit and enjoy that is a huge part of kind of taking your power back and letting go of that guilt. Because ultimately, when we can focus on the positives and joys in our lives and really acknowledge them, we're reducing our stress, we're increasing our brain functioning, again, reducing that depression and increasing our overall life satisfaction, which is part of the goal of why we do those things, why our intent is to take care of ourselves every single day. So get yourself out there, own and celebrate all the things that make you happy, whether it's eating that cake, watching that rom-com, dancing to your favorite song, and just quit feeling guilty about it. Learning to love yourself unconditionally and acknowledge that you deserve to be cared for even by yourself. It's okay. You deserve it. Have a great day. Let me know in the comments one thing you're going to try to do to take care of yourself and not feel guilty. Also, if you're looking on how can you start these practices, how can you start investing in yourself, investing your time and your energy in creating more of those moments every single day that are going to help you feel less guilty, more happiness, more supported, more productive and intentional in your day, then I want you to check out my Black Friday deal. It's just this week only through Cyber Monday. I'm bringing back for a limited time my 90-minute one-on-one VIP session, the Best Detangled Life session. During that time, we are going to transform your life in a single focused area. So imagine finally breaking free from confusion of what should you be focusing on to start this process. The frustration maybe of feeling stuck, of being in the same place over and over, year after year, as well as the overwhelm from trying to manage it all. And so what we're going to do in our time together is we're going to identify that one area in your life, whether it's meal prep, finding that time for you, your physical health, relationships, that's been causing you the most stress and uncertainty, and really helping you overcome maybe some of those past obstacles, whether it's saying yes to everything, confronting those limiting beliefs like all the shoulds that might cause you that guilt we were just talking about, and developing some actionable steps to create new and empowering habits and really craft a personalized blueprint for your future success. Plus, you'll get access to the recording and access to me through the next 30 days after that for any follow-up questions, kind of road bumps that come up along the way, so that you're not left on your own to try and deal with this. But I honestly believe the transformation value of what you're going to see is priceless. So the link should be live on my website for that, as well as on my link in Instagram. Send me a DM if you want me to just send it directly to you, because I know sometimes it's easier than just hunting it around, as well as ask me any questions that you have. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.